The gasp was loud enough to echo off the marble. I stood in the doorway of their mansion, holding my $16 grocery store pumpkin pie, and watched my daughter-in-law's mother actually press her manicured hand to her chest like I'd arrived in a burlap sack. "Oh," she said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of pity rich people save for the less fortunate. "Oh, you're here." I smiled. Sweet, harmless. "Happy Thanksgiving, Diane." She recovered quickly, pulling me into one of those air kisses that doesn't actually touch skin. Behind her, the foyer stretched out like something from a luxury hotel, gleaming white marble, a fountain with actual koi fish, and a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than most people's houses. Through the doorway, I could see them all gathered. My son David, looking uncomfortable in a borrowed sport coat. His wife Claire, perfect as always in her cream cashmere dress. Her father Robert, holding court by the bar. Her brother Trevor, already on his second bourbon. "Let me take that," Diane said, plucking the pie box from my hands like it might contaminate her. She held it at arm's length, reading the price sticker. $15.99. How economical. I said nothing. "You know, we have a wonderful caterer, flown in from New York, but it's sweet that you contributed." Sweet. That word again. I followed her inside, my worn cardigan suddenly very visible next to her Chanel suit, the black one with the gold buttons. I knew it cost $6,000 because I'd seen it in the store window last month. Could have bought 10 of them without checking my bank account. Didn't. "Everyone," Diane announced, her voice cutting through the conversation. "Look who's here." They all turned. Claire rushed over, kissing my cheek. "Mom, I'm so glad you made it. Let me get you some champagne." "Oh, honey," Diane interrupted, "maybe just wine? I'm sure your mother-in-law would prefer something more accessible." Robert appeared with a glass of white wine. Not the Dom Perignon everyone else was drinking, grocery store brand. I could tell by the label. "Here you go," he said, that booming voice of his filling the room. "Can't have you feeling left out." Feeling left out. I took the glass, smiled, said thank you. David caught my eye from across the room. His face was tight, embarrassed. I gave him a tiny nod. "It's okay, baby. I'm okay." But I wasn't, was I? I was standing in a room full of people who thought I was poor, who pitied me, who whispered about how their precious Claire had married down and how my son would never give her the life she deserved. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my purse, the plain black one I'd carried for 8 years, contained a folded piece of paper. My quarterly investment statement. 8 figures. The money I'd made selling my software company in 2003, before Claire was even out of college. The company I'd built in my garage, coding 18-hour days while raising David alone after his father died. The company that had made me one of the wealthiest women in tech. But I'd never told them. Never corrected their assumptions. I'd watched them pity me, holiday after holiday, and I'd stayed quiet. Why? Maybe I wanted to see who they really were. Maybe I was testing them. Maybe I was testing my son. Or maybe I'd just been too tired to care. "Dinner's ready," Diane called out. We moved to the dining room, another palace of wealth. The table could have seated 20. Crystal glasses at every place setting. China plates with gold rims. Candles in silver holders. I sat where they put me, the far end, away from the important people. Trevor slid into the seat next to me, whiskey on his breath. "So," he said, grinning, "still in that little house? The one with the chain-link fence?" "I like my house," I said quietly. "Oh, I'm sure you do. It's got character," he laughed. "Not like you could afford anything in our neighborhood anyway, right?" Claire shot him a look. "Trevor." "What? I'm just saying. No shame in living within your means, right, Mom?" He called me Mom, like we were family, like he had any right. I sipped my wine, let him talk. David was staring at his plate, not defending me, not saying a word. That hurt more than Trevor's insults. Diane brought out the food, or rather, the caterers brought out the food while Diane directed them like a general commanding troops. Turkey on a sterling silver platter, sides in matching serving dishes, My pie stayed in the kitchen, out of sight. We ate. They talked about their ski trip to Aspen, their summer house in the Hamptons, Trevor's new Tesla, Claire's interior designer. I said nothing, just smiled, nodded, played my part. The poor mother-in-law, the burden, the embarrassment. Then Robert stood up. He tapped his wine glass with a knife crystal ringing like a bell. Everyone went quiet. "I have an announcement," he said, chest puffed out. "Wonderful news, actually." David looked up, confused. "As you all know," Robert continued, "I've been concerned about my son-in-law's career trajectory. Teaching high school is admirable, of course, but it's not exactly a path to prosperity." My hand tightened on my fork. "So," Robert said, smiling like he was handing out Christmas presents, "I've decided to offer David a position at my firm, entry level. Naturally, he doesn't have the background for anything senior. But it's a start. A real job. Finally." The table erupted in applause. Claire was beaming. Trevor raised his glass. Diane actually had tears in her eyes. "Finally helping our dear son-in-law escape his situation," Robert said, looking directly at me. David had gone pale, white as the tablecloth. He wasn't smiling, wasn't celebrating. He looked like a man who'd just been handed his own execution. "Dad," he started, his voice weak. "I appreciate it, but I love teaching." "Nonsense," Robert boomed. "You'll start Monday. 50,000 a year. Not much, but more than you're making now, eh?" 50,000. David made 62 teaching, plus benefits, plus summers off to spend with the students he mentored. But Robert didn't know that. Didn't care. This wasn't about helping David. This was about control. I set down my wine glass. Carefully. Precisely. And I watched my son's face crumble as he tried to smile, tried to look grateful, tried to convince himself this wasn't humiliation wrapped in generosity. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just click, like a lock turning. But I kept my mouth shut. For now. I'd built an empire in silence. I could destroy one the same way. Diane leaned over, patted my hand. "Isn't it wonderful? Your son will finally have a real future, thanks to us." I smiled at her. "Yes," I said softly. "Thanks to you." Across the table, Robert was already talking about teaching David the basics of real business and how it's never too late to start over. Trevor smirked into his bourbon. Claire squeezed David's hand, oblivious to his pain. And me? I sat there in my 10-year-old cardigan, with my grocery store pie in the kitchen and my 8-figure bank account in my purse. And I made a decision. It was time for these people to learn something. You should never, ever mistake humility for weakness. Robert slid the business card across the table like he was dealing a winning poker hand. "Here," he said, tapping it with one thick finger. "Monday morning, 8 sharp. Don't be late, I'm doing you a favor here." David stared at the card. Didn't pick it up. "Robert," he said quietly, "I really don't think." "Nonsense," Robert cut him off with a wave. "You've wasted enough time in that classroom. What are you now, 38, 39? Most men your age are building something, making real money, providing." That word hung in the air. Providing. Like my son hadn't been providing. Like the kids he mentored didn't matter. Like the scholarships he helped them get, the college essays he edited at midnight, the way he showed up for students whose own parents didn't like none of that was real work. Claire touched David's arm. "Honey, it's an amazing opportunity. Entry level," Trevor added with a grin. "Gotta start somewhere, right? Even at your age." I watched David's jaw tighten. His hand trembled slightly as he finally picked up the card. "What would I be doing?" he asked. Robert leaned back, expansive, generous. "Oh, basic stuff. Cold calls, property research, filing, learning the ropes. It's a mercy position. Really, you don't have the background for anything substantial. No business degree, no sales experience. But I'm willing to invest in you. Train you up. And the salary?" David's voice was barely above a whisper. 50,000. Plus commission potential if you can close deals. Robert chuckled. Though let's be realistic, that'll take time. Years, probably. But still, better than a teacher's salary, eh? My son made $62,000 teaching. Plus full benefits. Plus pension. Plus the respect of every student who walked through his door. But Robert didn't know that. Hadn't bothered to ask. David opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I appreciate the offer, but teaching is my passion. Passion doesn't pay the bills, son. Robert's voice hardened. Claire deserves better than a 2-bedroom apartment and budget vacations. Don't you want to give your wife the life she's accustomed to? All eyes turned to David. Waiting. Judging. My son looked like he was drowning. Of course I do. Then it settled. Robert raised his glass. To new beginnings. To David finally joining the real world. They all toasted. All except David. And me. I sat there with my cheap wine, watching my son's face crumble in slow motion, watching him try to smile, try to look grateful, try to convince himself that this wasn't exactly what it was. Humiliation, disguised as generosity. Control, wrapped in kindness. A cage with a golden lock. Under the table, my hands clenched the cloth napkin so hard my knuckles went white. I wanted to scream. Wanted to stand up and tell Robert exactly what he could do with his mercy position. Wanted to pull out my phone and show him my portfolio, show him that I could buy his entire company with what I spent on quarterly taxes. But I didn't. I sat there, quiet, playing my role. The poor mother-in-law who didn't understand business, who couldn't possibly contribute anything meaningful to the conversation. Claire was beaming at her father. Thank you, Daddy. This means everything. Of course, sweetheart. Robert patted her hand. Anything for my little girl. Can't have her struggling because she married for love instead of money. He laughed, loud, harsh. No one else laughed. David was staring at the business card like it was a death sentence. Trevor leaned over to him. Don't worry, buddy. I'll show you the ropes. Take you under my wing. By the time I'm done with you, you might actually be worth something. Trevor, who worked as a VP at his daddy's company, who'd never earned anything in his life, who showed up late and left early and spent most of his time on the golf course. Trevor was going to train my son. I took a sip of wine, forced myself to swallow, to breathe. Diane stood up. Dessert time. I'll get the pies. She swept into the kitchen, and I heard her directing the caterers. Moments later, they emerged with an array of desserts that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Pecan pie with candied pecans, pumpkin cheesecake with gold leaf, apple tart with hand-whipped cream. My grocery store pie was nowhere in sight. Oh, Diane said, noticing my glance toward the kitchen. I put yours aside for later. Didn't want to overwhelm the presentation, you know? Translation. Didn't want to embarrass me. Or maybe, didn't want to be embarrassed by me. She served everyone generous slices of the real desserts. When she got to me, she paused. Would you like the pecan or the cheesecake, dear? I'll take a slice of the pie I brought, I said quietly. Oh, but please. She sighed, went to the kitchen, came back with a small slice of my $16 pie on a plain white plate. Everyone else had the fancy china. I took a bite. It tasted fine. It tasted like every Thanksgiving I'd had since my husband died, since I'd sold my company and chosen a quiet life over a public one, since I'd decided that wealth was something you kept private, something you didn't flaunt. But watching my son sit there, broken and trying not to show it, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Diane leaned close to Claire, but her voice carried. It always did. Darling, she stage whispered, we really must do something about your mother-in-law's living situation. That neighborhood she's in, I drove past it last week. Chain-link fences. Cars on blocks. Honestly, at her age, she should be somewhere safer, more appropriate. Claire looked uncomfortable. Mom, I'm serious. Assisted living. There are wonderful communities now, very affordable. We could help with the deposit, couldn't we, Robert? Robert nodded. Absolutely. Can't have family living in squalor. What would people think? They were talking about me like I wasn't there. Like I was a problem to be solved. A burden to be managed. I took another bite of my pie. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. And I made a decision. I'd been quiet for 3 years. 3 years of holidays like this. 3 years of insults disguised as concern. 3 years of watching them treat my son like he was less than. Like we were less than. 3 years was enough. I pulled my phone from my purse. Scrolled through my contacts. Found the name I needed. James Chen, my former business partner, now CEO of Chen Capital Ventures. I typed out a text under the table. Remember that property deal Robert Ashford's been chasing? The Riverside development contract? Buy it. Whatever it takes, I'll cover the difference. The reply came in seconds. Done. This going to be fun? I typed back. Oh, you have no idea. I slipped my phone back in my purse, took another bite of my pie, and smiled. Robert was laughing now, telling some story about a deal he'd closed, how he'd crushed the competition and shown them who runs this city. Trevor was refilling his bourbon. Claire was scrolling through her phone, probably already texting friends about David's amazing new job. And David, my beautiful, kind, broken son, was sitting there with that business card in his hand, looking like he'd just agreed to his own execution. More pie, dear? Diane asked me, all fake sweetness. I looked up at her, looked at Robert, looked at Trevor, and I said, no, thank you, I'm full. Then I added, just loud enough for the table to hear, but I think I'll take a slice to go, for tomorrow. Because tomorrow was going to be very, very interesting. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my quaint little house, the paid-off craftsman bungalow with the chain-link fence and the garden I'd spent 15 years perfecting, and I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. One click. That's all it would take. One click, and I could unleash everything I'd been holding back for 3 years. But first, I needed to know my son was okay. I picked up my phone, dialed. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mom? His voice was rough, tired. It's almost midnight. Are you alone? A pause. Claire's asleep. What's wrong? You tell me. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I thought he might hang up. Then, I don't want the job. 3 words. But they broke something open in my chest. Then don't take it, I said softly. It's not that simple. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You don't understand. They've been pressuring me for months, saying I need to get serious about my career. That teaching is fine for young people, but at my age, I should be thinking about real money, real success. Teaching is real, David. Try telling them that. His voice cracked. Her father looks at me like I'm a charity case. Trevor makes jokes about my cute little teacher salary every chance he gets. And Claire, he stopped. What about Claire? She doesn't say it. But I can see it. The disappointment. When her friends talk about their husband's promotions, their bonuses, their summer houses, and she has to explain that her husband teaches high school history. I closed my eyes. She knew who you were when she married you. I know. But her family didn't. And now, I don't know, Mom. Maybe they're right. Maybe I have been wasting my potential. Maybe I should want more. Do you? Another long silence. I wanted to tell him no tonight. Wanted to say that I love my job, that my students need me, that I'm making a difference. His voice broke completely. But I couldn't. I couldn't disappoint them again. Disappoint them. Not himself. Them. Baby, I whispered. Listen to me. I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired of feeling like I'm not enough. Like everything I've built doesn't matter because it doesn't come with a 6-figure salary and a corner office. My heart was breaking. For him. For the boy I'd raised to value kindness over wealth. The man who'd chosen purpose over profit. The son who was being slowly crushed by people who measured worth in dollar signs. David, I said carefully. Do you trust me? Of course. Then I need you to do something for me. Don't take that job. Not yet. Give me 1 week. Just 1 week. Mom, what are you? 1 week, please. He sighed. Okay. 1 week. But then I have to give Robert an answer. That's all I need. We said goodbye. I love you. The things mothers and sons say. But after I hung up, I sat there in the dark for a long time, thinking about the boy who used to bring home stray cats, who gave his lunch money to kids who forgot theirs, who chose teaching because he wanted to matter, not because he wanted to be rich. And I thought about the people who were trying to break him. Then I opened my laptop. First call. James Chen. He picked up immediately. I'm assuming you're not calling at midnight to chat. The Riverside development deal. Where are we? Contract signed an hour ago. Robert Ashford's firm was the other bidder. He's going to lose his mind when he finds out who bought it. Good. What else can you tell me about his company? Papers rustled. Ashford Properties? Overextended. Leveraged to the gills. He's been using new deals to pay off old debt. Classic House of Cards situation. Riverside was supposed to be his big salvation, $15 million in projected revenue over 2 years. And now? Now he's got nothing, and a lot of angry investors. I smiled in the darkness. Dig deeper. I want to know everything. Financial statements, property holdings, personnel files, everything. Legal everything, right? James asked. But I could hear the grin in his voice. Of course, I'm not looking to break laws, just leverage information. I'll have a full report by morning. Second call. Patricia Wong, my attorney, the woman who'd helped me structure my company sale to minimize taxes and maximize privacy. Do you know what time it is? She answered. I need a favor. Of course you do. I heard her sit up. What kind of favor? The kind that might get messy. My favorite kind. Talk to me. I laid it out. Everything. The years of insults, the humiliation, David's phone call, the job offer that was really a leash. So you want to what exactly? Patricia asked when I finished. Destroy them? Expose them? Teach them a lesson? I want them to understand, I said quietly. That respect isn't about money, that my son isn't less than because he chose a different path, that I'm not some pathetic old woman to be pitied. You want revenge? I want justice. Potato, potatu. She laughed. Okay, I'm in. What's the plan? I'm still working on that, but I need you ready. This might move fast. I'm always ready, you know that. Third call. My son. Again. This time I didn't give him a chance to speak. I need to ask you something, I said, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you resent me? What, Mom? No. Do you resent me for not telling them? About the money, about who I was. Do you wish I'd shown up in designer clothes and a luxury car and made them respect us? Silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. Sometimes. That hurt. But it was honest. I'm sorry, he continued quickly. I know why you live the way you do. I know you don't need to prove anything to anyone. But sometimes, sometimes I wish they knew. So they'd stop looking at me like I'm the poor relation, like I'm lucky to be part of their family. You're not lucky, I said. Claire is, but she doesn't know it yet. Mom. 1 week, David. Trust me. I hung up, and I started making a list. Robert Ashford, CEO. Over-leveraged, desperate, arrogant. Diane Ashford, trophy wife, image-obsessed. Cruel in that casual, careless way rich women can be. Trevor Ashford, VP of Daddy's company. Embezzler, I'd bet my fortune on it. Men like him always were. And Claire, my daughter-in-law, the woman my son loved. I didn't want to hurt her, but I needed her to see. By 3 a.m., my email inbox was full. James had sent the financial reports. Patricia had sent legal options. My investment manager had sent updated portfolio statements just in case I needed to move money quickly. I read it all. Every page. Every number. Every damning detail. Robert Ashford's company was a disaster. built on loans and leverage and the kind of aggressive accounting that wasn't quite illegal, but definitely wasn't ethical. He'd been chasing the Riverside deal because he needed it. Without it, his house of cards would collapse within 6 months. Trevor was exactly what I'd suspected. Small-scale embezzlement. Nothing massive, 50,000 here, 30,000 there. But consistent, steady, the kind of theft that adds up over years. And Diane? She had no idea. Her credit cards were maxed out on Robert's accounts. Her jewelry was bought on credit. Her entire lifestyle was smoke and mirrors. The people who'd spent 3 years pitying me were broke. Or close enough. I closed my laptop, looked around my little house. The house I'd bought with cash in 2005. The house I'd chosen because I loved the wraparound porch and the garden space and the neighborhood with actual families instead of McMansions. The house they thought was a sign of my poverty. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Ashford just found out about Riverside, called me personally. He's furious, asked if that Chen woman was involved. I played dumb. What next? I typed back, Sunday brunch, their house. Can you make it? Wouldn't miss it for the world. I smiled, set my phone down, and went to my closet. I pulled out my old cardigan, the one with the frayed cuffs and the missing button. I'd wear it again on Sunday. One last time. She was sobbing now. I don't know who that is. Then figure it out, I said. But don't drag my son down while you do. Claire pulled her hand away, stood up, turned to David, and said 4 words that made my blood run cold. I want a divorce. David's face shattered. Claire, no. I can't, she whispered. I can't do this. Any of this. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want, and I can't figure it out while I'm married to you, because all I see when I look at you is my own failure. Failure? David stood up. What are you talking about? I failed you, she shouted. For 3 years, I let my family treat you like garbage. I let them make you feel small. I sat there and said nothing while they mocked your mother and dismissed your career and tried to turn you into something you're not. Her voice cracked completely. I don't want a divorce because of the money, David. I want one because I don't know if you can ever forgive me for being so weak, so pathetic, so desperate for their approval that I sacrificed you. The room was silent except for her crying. David stood there, frozen. Then he did something I didn't expect. He started crying too. I was ashamed, he said. Of myself, of my job, of my mother. Not because of anything you did or said, but because I let them make me ashamed. I let them convince me that what I'd built wasn't enough, that I wasn't enough. He looked at me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have defended you, should have told them who you were, what you'd done, what you meant to me. But I was too busy hating myself to protect you. My heart broke. Broke and broke and broke. Baby, I whispered, come here. He crossed to me. I stood, and I held my son while he cried. Held him the way I had when his father died, when he didn't make the baseball team, when his first girlfriend broke his heart. Held him because that's what mothers do. When I looked up, Claire was standing there, her face wet with tears. I don't want a divorce, she whispered. I want to be better. I want to be worthy of him, but I don't know how. I looked at this girl, this woman who'd been raised in a golden cage and taught that love was transactional. And I made a decision. Then learn, I said. But you do it honestly. No more secrets, no more pretending. You figure out who you are and what you believe in. And if David still fits into that, if you still fit into each other, then you rebuild. Together. She nodded. Trembling. Broken. But maybe finally ready to be real. I looked around the table. At this family, I'd just demolished and offered to rebuild. No more games, I said. No more tests. From any of us. We start over. With truth. Robert's voice was barely audible. Why would you help us? After everything? I smiled. Sad. Tired. Honest. Because my son loves your daughter, and I'd rather build a bridge than burn one down. Robert buried his face in his hands. and for the first time in 3 years, I saw him cry. The hospital called at 2 in the morning. I was still awake, hadn't been able to sleep since the dinner 3 nights ago when my phone lit up with an unknown number. Is this the emergency contact for Robert Ashford? My stomach dropped. I'm his son-in-law's mother. What happened? Mr. Ashford was brought in an hour ago. Heart attack. His wife is here, but she asked us to call you. Can you come? I was in my car in 5 minutes. The hospital was 40 minutes away, but I made it in 30. Diane was in the waiting room, still in her nightgown with a coat thrown over it. No makeup, hair undone. She looked like a stranger. She looked real. He collapsed, she said when she saw me. Her voice was hollow. We were in bed. He was going over bills again, and he just clutched his chest and fell. I sat next to her, took her hand. She didn't pull away. They're working on him now. They said it was serious, that the stress. She started crying. This is my fault. I pushed him. I needed the houses, the cars, the life. I never asked what it cost him. Diane. No. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. You were right, about all of it. We've been destroying ourselves for years. And I couldn't see it, didn't want to see it. A doctor appeared, young, tired. Mrs. Ashford? Your husband is stable. We're moving him to ICU. You can see him in a few minutes. Diane sagged with relief. But, the doctor continued, he's going to need significant lifestyle changes. The stress on his heart, it's considerable. He can't continue living the way he has been. He won't, Diane said immediately. I promise, whatever it takes. The doctor nodded and left. Diane turned to me. Why did you come? Because you asked. But why? After what we did to you. Because holding grudges takes energy I don't have anymore. I squeezed her hand. And because I meant what I said, I'd rather build a bridge. They let us in to see him 20 minutes later. Robert looked small in the hospital bed. Tubes and wires everywhere, machines beeping steadily. His eyes were closed. Diane went to him, took his hand, whispered things I couldn't hear. I stood by the door, ready to leave. Then his eyes opened. Found me. You came? He rasped. I came. Why? I walked closer, looked down at this man who'd spent 3 years making me feel small. He looked afraid. Mortal. Human. Because you're family, I said simply, whether you like it or not. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. 2 words. But they cost him everything. I know. I was wrong. About you. About David. About everything. His voice was getting weaker. I built my whole life on a lie, and now it's killing me. Then stop, I said. Stop lying. Stop pretending. Stop measuring your worth by your bank account. I don't know how. You learn. Same as everyone else. Diane was crying again, clutching his hand. Robert's eyes drifted closed, then opened again. The company, he whispered. I'm going to lose it. Everything. I know. Trevor stole from me. My own son. I know that too. And you? You could have exposed all of it, destroyed us completely. But you didn't. No. Why? I thought about that. About the 3 years of insults, the humiliation, the way they'd treated my son. About revenge versus justice. About what I'd become if I'd destroyed them. Because I'm not interested in breaking people, I said finally. I'm interested in teaching them. And you can't learn anything if you're completely destroyed. Robert's hand reached out, weak, trembling. I took it. I'll take the job, he whispered. With James, whatever he offers, I'll do the work. Honest work. Good. And I'll apologize to David, properly, when I'm out of here. He'll appreciate that. I don't deserve this. Your help. Your kindness. No, I agreed. You don't. But I'm giving it anyway. That's what grace looks like. He closed his eyes, squeezed my hand once. Then, sleep took him. Diane walked me out. In the hallway, under the fluorescent lights, she looked exhausted, broken, but somehow more solid than I'd ever seen her. Can I ask you something? she said. Of course. How did you do it? Raise a son alone, build a company, make all that money, and stay normal? I laughed. Couldn't help it. Normal? Diane, I'm not normal. I'm just honest. There's a difference. Still, you didn't let the money change you. The money didn't change me because I'd already decided who I was before I had it. I leaned against the wall. I knew what mattered: family, purpose, peace. The money was just a tool, a means to protect those things, not an end in itself. I never learned that, she said quietly. My whole life, money was the goal. Get it, keep it, show it off. I don't know how to be anything else. Then figure it out. You've got time. Do I? Robert almost died tonight. Because of the life I demanded, the pressure I put on him. Then change, I said. It's that simple and that hard. Decide who you want to be and become her. She looked at me for a long moment. I want to be like you. I shook my head. No, you want to be like yourself. Just a better version, one who knows what matters. Will you help me? I didn't expect that question. Didn't expect to even consider saying yes. But looking at her, at this woman who'd mocked my cardigan and pitied my pie and treated me like I was nothing, I saw something I recognized. Fear. The same fear I'd felt when my husband died, when I didn't know how to go on, when everything seemed impossible. Yes, I said. I'll help you. She started crying again. Thank you. We stood there in that hospital hallway, two women who should have been enemies, holding each other up. The elevator dinged. Trevor and Claire stepped out. Trevor looked terrible, hungover, unshaven, eyes red. Claire looked scared. Mom, she ran to Diane. How is he? The hospital called, but they wouldn't tell us. He's stable, Diane said. Sleeping. You can see him soon. Trevor hung back, not meeting anyone's eyes. I walked over to him. He flinched. For making him feel like he had to choose between his calling and your approval. Or what? Robert spat. I smiled. Or I make a phone call. One phone call. And every investor you have knows exactly how bad things really are. James helpfully held up his phone. She has the numbers, all of them. Want to take that risk? Robert's shoulders sagged. Behind him, Trevor sank into a chair. Jesus Christ. Diane was crying silently. And Claire? Claire was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Mom? David's voice was barely a whisper. I turned to him, saw the confusion, the hurt, the beginning of understanding. I'm sorry, I said. I should have done this years ago. Done what? Shown them who you really are. I looked back at Robert. My son is worth 10 of you, 100. And if you can't see that, my phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Found something on Trevor. You're going to want to see this. I looked at Trevor. Really looked at him. He couldn't meet my eyes. What? He asked nervously. Why are you staring at me? I smiled. Because this day just got a lot more interesting. 3 days later, I called a family meeting. Not at their mansion. At my house. My quaint little house with the chain-link fence and the garden they'd mocked. Claire called it an emergency dinner. Her voice on the phone was tight, scared. Good. They should be scared. I spent the afternoon cooking, real food. The kind I used to make when David was young and money was tight and love had to substitute for luxury. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans from my garden. Nothing fancy, nothing catered. Just honest food made with honest hands. At 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find all of them standing on my porch. Robert, Diane, Trevor, Claire, David. And behind them, my surprise guests, James Chen in his tailored suit, and Patricia Wong carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than their car payments. Come in, I said. They filed past me like mourners at a funeral. Maybe they were. My living room wasn't big enough for everyone, so we crowded around my dining table, the one I'd bought at an estate sale 15 years ago. Solid oak, scarred and beautiful. No one spoke. Robert looked like he'd aged 10 years. His expensive suit hung loose, his eyes were hollow. Diane clutched her purse like a lifeline. Trevor wouldn't look at anyone. And Claire sat next to David, holding his hand so tight her knuckles were white. I served dinner. They ate in silence. The pot roast was perfect, tender, flavorful. No one tasted it. Finally, Robert set down his fork. "Why are we here?" "Because," I said calmly, "we need to have a conversation, a real one. No more pretending, no more games." I nodded to Patricia. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a folder, slid it across the table to Robert. "What's this?" he asked. "The truth," Patricia said. "Financial statements, property records, legal documents, everything." Robert opened the folder. His face went gray. "How did you get these?" "Does it matter?" I asked. "What matters is what they show. Your company is drowning. Debt ratios that would make a loan shark nervous. Properties mortgaged 3 times over. Investors who have no idea how bad things really are. That's private information." "It's public record," Patricia interrupted, "for anyone who knows where to look, which I do." Diane leaned over, reading. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Robert, these numbers are being handled," he snapped. "With what money?" James asked pleasantly. "You've got 90 days before the balloon payment on the Riverside property comes due. The property you don't own anymore, the one I bought." Robert's jaw clenched. "You targeted me." "No," I said quietly. "You targeted my son, for 3 years, and I let you. I watched you tear him down piece by piece, holiday after holiday, thinking maybe you'd realize what you had, that maybe you'd see him for who he really is." I looked at Claire. A good man, a kind man, a man who chose purpose over profit and still manages to provide for his family, to be present, to show up. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "But you couldn't see it," I continued, "because all you saw was dollar signs, status, keeping up appearances." I reached into my own purse, pulled out a different folder, slid it to Trevor. "What's this?" he asked nervously. "Open it." He did. His face went white. Bank statements, transaction records, dates and amounts highlighted in yellow. "That's 3 years of embezzlement," Patricia said. 53,000 in fraudulent expense reports, 38,000 in kickbacks from vendors, 22,000 in ghost employees. Trevor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You've been stealing from your father's company," I said, slowly, carefully, but consistently. Diane gasped. "Trevor, no." "I was going to pay it back," Trevor blurted out. "I swear, I needed." "You needed to maintain your lifestyle," James finished. "The Tesla, the condo, the bottle service at clubs, all on Daddy's dime. Except Daddy didn't know about it." Robert grabbed the folder. "Read it." His hands shook. "You?" he whispered. "You've been stealing from me?" Trevor stood up, knocking his chair backward. "It's not like that." "Sit down." Robert's voice was ice. Trevor sat. The silence was suffocating. Finally, Diane spoke. Her voice was tiny, broken. "Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy us?" "Destroy you?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "Diane, you've been destroying yourselves for years. I'm just holding up a mirror." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at my garden, the roses I'd planted the year David graduated college, the tomatoes ripening on the vine, the life I'd built that they'd dismissed as poverty. 20 years ago," I said, "my husband died. Suddenly, heart attack, left me with a 10-year-old son and a half-finished software project I'd been coding in our garage. Behind me, no one moved. I could have given up, could have sold everything, moved in with family, accepted help. But I didn't. I finished the project, pitched it to investors, built a company, worked 18-hour days while raising David alone. I turned back to them. In 2003, Microsoft offered me $200 million for my company. I took it, paid my taxes, invested wisely, and then I retired. I was 42 years old, and I never had to work again. Claire was crying openly now. But I didn't buy a mansion, didn't buy a luxury car, didn't flash my money around, because I'd seen what wealth did to people, how it corrupted, how it made them forget what really mattered. I walked back to the table. I chose this house because I loved it. I chose simple clothes because they were comfortable. I chose to live quietly because I'd already proven everything I needed to prove. I looked at Robert. And then my son married your daughter. And I watched you. Watched how you treated people you thought were beneath you. How you measured worth in dollars. How you crushed anyone who didn't fit your definition of success. We didn't know, Diane started. Exactly, I interrupted. You didn't know. You didn't ask. You didn't care. You just assumed. And you treated us accordingly. Robert's voice was hoarse. What do you want from us? I want you to understand something, I said. Wealth isn't what you wear. It's not what you drive. It's not the size of your house or the brand of your champagne. I gestured around my modest dining room. Real wealth is peace, security, the freedom to live according to your values. And you know what? I have all of that. Do you? No one answered. Because from where I'm sitting, I continued, you're broke. Not just financially, though you are, but emotionally, spiritually. You've sacrificed everything real for the illusion of success. I sat back down. Here's what's going to happen. Robert, James is going to offer you a consulting position at Chen Capital. Real work, fair salary, a chance to rebuild your reputation honestly. Robert stared at James. You'll liquidate your failing assets, James said. Pay off your debts, start over. It won't be glamorous, but it'll be sustainable. And Trevor, Patricia added, you'll pay back every cent you stole, with interest, and you'll do it by actually working. Not for your father, those days are over. But I have connections. Companies that need entry-level analysts who are willing to work their way up. Trevor looked like he might be sick. As for you, Diane, I said gently, I think it's time you figured out who you are without the designer labels and the country club memberships. There's a real person under all that. I'd like to meet her. Diane's tears fell silently onto her empty plate. I turned to Claire, my daughter-in-law, the woman my son loved. She was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Claire, I said softly, I need you to make a choice. What choice? Her voice broke. You can walk away from all this. From David, from me. Go back to chasing the life your parents taught you to want. The one that looks good on the outside but crumbles when you touch it. I reached across the table, took her hand. Or you can choose something real, something hard, something that requires you to figure out who you are, not who they wanted you to be. Because after Sunday, everything was going to change. I'd spent 3 years being underestimated, being dismissed, being treated like I was nothing. But I'd built an empire once. And I could dismantle one too. They wanted to see me as weak? Fine. Let them. Right up until the moment I showed them exactly what weakness looks like. And it wasn't me. Sunday brunch was supposed to start at 11. I arrived at 10:55 wearing the same cardigan, carrying homemade muffins, this time the kind you make from a box mix. Diane opened the door, looking like she hadn't slept. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were red. Her smile was strained. Oh, she said, you're early. I can wait in the car. No, come in. She practically pulled me inside, glancing over her shoulder. Robert's been on the phone all morning. Business crisis. You know how it is. I didn't know. But I nodded sympathetically. From somewhere deep in the house, I could hear him shouting. What do you mean Chen Capital bought it? Who the hell is Chen Capital? Find out. I want names. I want... The door slammed. Muffled cursing continued. Diane's smile never wavered. Coffee? Please. We walked to the kitchen, gleaming white marble, top-of-the-line appliances, fresh flowers in crystal vases. Diane poured coffee into delicate china cups with shaking hands. Everything okay? I asked gently. Fine. Everything's fine. Just, business. Robert works so hard. She laughed, high and nervous. Sometimes I think it'll kill him. I sipped my coffee, said nothing. The shouting stopped. Footsteps. Heavy. Angry. Robert appeared in the doorway, phone clutched in one hand. His face was purple. A vein throbbed in his temple. "Oh," he said, seeing me. "You're here. Happy Sunday, Robert." He grunted, poured himself coffee, drank it black and scalding, like he was punishing himself. "Where's David?" he asked. "On his way, with Claire." "Good. Need to talk to him about starting tomorrow. Get him in early, show him the ropes." He laughed, bitter. "God knows I could use some good news this week." "Bad week?" I asked innocently. "Lost a major deal, 15 million. Some new firm swooped in, outbid us at the last second." He slammed his cup down. "Chen Capital. Ever heard of them?" I shook my head. "I don't follow business much." "Lucky you." He rubbed his face. 3 months of work, down the drain, and the investors are circling like sharks. Diane touched his arm. "Honey, maybe you shouldn't." "I'm fine." He pulled away. "I'm fine. We'll recover. We always do. Got other deals in the pipeline. It's just timing." The doorbell rang. David and Claire. I heard them come in, heard Claire's cheerful voice greeting her mother. Then they appeared in the kitchen. My son looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. Claire looked worried. "Daddy," she said, going to Robert. "Are you okay? You sounded upset on the phone earlier." "Work stuff, princess. Nothing for you to worry about." He kissed her forehead, then turned to David. "Ready to start tomorrow? 8 sharp. Don't be late." David's jaw tightened. "About that. We'll get you set up with an office. Well, a cubicle. But it's a start. Trevor will show you the CRM system, teach you how to cold call." "Robert," David interrupted, "I need more time to think about it." The kitchen went silent. Robert stared at him. "What?" I need to consider it more carefully. Talk to my principal. See if I can take a leave of absence instead of quitting outright." "A leave of absence?" Robert's voice dropped dangerously low. "You're treating this like a summer job?" "No, I offer you a real career, a chance to finally make something of yourself, and you need to think about it." Robert's face was turning purple again. "Do you have any idea how many people would kill for this opportunity? I appreciate it, I really do, but..." "But what? Teaching is more important? Those kids matter more than your own family? More than giving my daughter the life she deserves?" Claire stepped between them. "Daddy, stop!" "No!" Robert slammed his hand on the counter. "I'm done watching him waste his potential. Done watching you settle for less than you should have." "Robert!" Diane grabbed his arm. "Please, calm down." He shook her off. And I saw it then. The cracks. The desperation underneath the anger. The fear behind the rage. This wasn't about David at all. This was about Robert losing control. Losing the deal. Losing his grip on the empire he'd built on borrowed money and borrowed time. My son was just collateral damage. "I'll think about it," David said quietly. "I'll give you an answer by the end of the week." "End of the week? I need someone tomorrow." The doorbell rang again. We all froze. "Who's that?" Diane asked. "We're not expecting anyone else." "I'll get it," I said. I walked to the front door, opened it. James Chen stood there in a perfectly tailored suit, carrying a leather briefcase. He smiled at me the same smile he'd given investors 20 years ago when we were pitching our software to venture capitalists. "Hello," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I'm looking for Robert Ashford." Behind me, I heard footsteps. Robert appeared confused. "I'm Robert Ashford. Who are you?" James extended his hand. "James Chen, CEO of Chen Capital Ventures." Robert's face went white, then red, then white again. "You," he whispered. "Me." James kept smiling. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion. But when I heard you were interested in discussing the Riverside development contract, I thought I'd stop by personally. Clear up any confusion." "Confusion?" Robert's voice was strangled. "You stole that deal from me." "Stole? No. I simply made a better offer. That's how business works, isn't it?" James looked past him. Saw me. His smile widened. "Oh, hello. You must be David's mother. I've heard so much about you. Everyone turned to look at me. You know each other? Claire asked. We're old friends, James said smoothly. Worked together years ago, lost touch. But when she mentioned the Riverside deal at Thanksgiving, I thought, wait. Robert's eyes narrowed. What? At Thanksgiving, James repeated. When we were discussing business opportunities, she mentioned you were interested in Riverside. Small world, isn't it? I said nothing, just stood there in my cardigan and my quiet smile. Robert looked at me, really looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. You, he said slowly. You told him about the deal? We were just talking, I said softly. I didn't know he'd… Chen, Robert interrupted. Chen Capital. He turned to James. Are you related to… to her? James glanced at me. In a manner of speaking, business partners. 20 years ago, before she sold her company and retired. The words hung in the air. Sold her company. Retired. Trevor appeared from somewhere, bourbon in hand. What company? James pulled out his phone, scrolled, turned the screen around. It was a Forbes article from 2003. The headline, Tech Entrepreneur Sells Software Company for $200 Million. And there was my picture. Younger, professional, standing in front of my company logo. My maiden name in the caption. Claire gasped. David closed his eyes. Diane actually stumbled backward. Robert stared at the screen like it was a bomb. 200 million, Trevor whispered. Holy shit. Language, Diane said automatically. But she wasn't looking at Trevor. She was looking at me. You're a millionaire? Claire asked. Her voice was small. Hurt. Was? I corrected gently. The money's been invested, grown, changed. But yes. And you never told us? You never asked. Robert found his voice. You sabotaged my deal. You told him. I mentioned a business opportunity to an old friend, I said calmly. What he chose to do with that information was his decision. Bullshit. Robert stepped forward. This is revenge. Because of what? Because we didn't roll out a red carpet for you? Because we tried to help your son? Help? The word came out sharper than I intended. You humiliated him. You offered him a job that paid less than he already makes. You treated him like a charity case, like he needed saving. He's a high school teacher. He's a good man, something you wouldn't recognize if it hit you in the face. The silence was deafening. Robert's hands were shaking. Get out. Daddy, Claire started. Get out. He pointed at the door. Both of you. You come into my house. You sabotage my business. You… Robert, Diane said urgently. Maybe we should all calm down. Calm down? Calm down? He turned on her. Do you know what this means? That deal was our lifeline. Without it… He stopped. Too late. Without it what? I asked quietly. Robert's mouth worked. No sound came out. Without it, you're bankrupt, James said pleasantly. Or, close enough, leverage to the point of collapse. Isn't that right, Robert? Trevor set down his bourbon. Wait, what? Your father's company is drowning in debt, James continued. The Riverside deal was supposed to buy him another year, maybe 2. But now? He shrugged. 6 months, maybe less. Diane's face crumbled. Robert, is this true? Robert said nothing. Claire looked between her parents. Daddy? It's fine, he said hoarsely. We'll figure it out. We always do. Will you? I asked. Because from what I've seen, you've been throwing good money after bad for years, living beyond your means, pretending everything was fine while the foundation crumbled. I stepped forward, looked Robert in the eye. You mocked me for my cardigan, my grocery store pie, my little house. You pitied me. But at least everything I have is real, paid for, mine. Can you say the same? His face twisted with rage and shame. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to apologize to my son, to his face, for treating him like he was less than, for trying to control his life. I'm not going to hurt you, I said quietly. I know. He looked at the floor. I'm sorry. For everything. The things I said, the way I treated David, the money I stole. Trevor. He looked up. Stop apologizing and start changing, I said. Words are easy, action is hard. Show me who you're going to be, not who you were. I don't know how. Patricia left you her card. Call her. She'll set you up with interviews, real jobs, entry level. You'll hate it. The pay will be terrible. The work will be boring. But you'll do it anyway. Because that's how you rebuild. And if I can't? If I'm not strong enough? Then you fail. And you figure out if you care enough to try again. I paused. But I don't think you will. Fail, I mean. I think you're stronger than you know. You just haven't had a reason to find out yet. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Or just the absence of despair. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I'll try. A nurse came out. Family can see him now, 2 at a time. Diane and Claire went first. Trevor and I stood in the waiting room, awkward silence between us. Can I ask you something? He said finally. Sure. Why didn't you destroy us? You could have. Easily. 1 phone call to our investors, 1 leak to the press, we'd be done. I sat down, gestured for him to do the same. You want the honest answer? Please. Because I've been broke, I said. Really broke. Not pretend broke like you are now, but actually wondering if I could feed my son broke. And you know what I learned? He shook his head. That being destroyed doesn't teach you anything except how to survive. But being humbled, being given a chance to rebuild, that teaches you everything. I looked at him. I don't want you destroyed, Trevor. None of you. I want you better. And better doesn't come from punishment. It comes from grace and accountability working together. I don't deserve grace. Nobody does. That's the whole point. He was quiet for a long time. Then, David's lucky to have you as a mother. David's lucky because he's kind, because he chose purpose over profit, because he stayed true to himself even when it would have been easier not to. I smiled. I didn't make him that way. I just didn't get in his way. Claire came out. Her eyes found Trevor. He wants to see you, she said. You specifically. Trevor went white. I can't. Not after what I did. He asked for you, Claire repeated. Go. Trevor stood, walked toward the ICU on shaking legs. Claire sat next to me. How are you holding up? I asked. I don't know. She twisted her wedding ring. David moved into the guest room. He says he needs time to think, to figure out if we can get past this. Can you? I don't know that either. She looked at me. Do you think I'm a terrible person? No. You should. I am. I let my family treat your son like garbage for 3 years. You were afraid, I said, of losing their approval, of not being enough. I understand that. How? You're so strong, so sure of yourself. I'm 62 years old, Claire. I've had time to figure it out. You're 28. Give yourself grace. David might not. Then that's his choice. But if you want my advice? She nodded. Stop trying to be worthy of him. Just be honest. Be real. Figure out what you believe in, what you want, who you are. Not your parents' daughter, not David's wife. Just Claire. And if David loves that person, the real you, then you'll find your way back to each other. And if he doesn't? Then at least you'll know who you are. That's worth something. She wiped her eyes. I don't know where to start. Start by asking yourself what you'd do if money didn't matter. If your parents' opinion didn't matter. If nothing mattered except being happy. What would your life look like? She thought about that for a long time. I'd go back to school, she said finally. I dropped out to get married. I always wanted to finish. Maybe become a therapist. Help people. Then do it. Just like that? Just like that. She laughed. Bitter. Broken. With what money? Dad's company is collapsing. I can't ask them. You're not asking them, I said. You're asking me. I'll pay for school, full ride, whatever you need. She stared at me. Why would you do that? Because you're my daughter-in-law. Because I see potential in you. Because everyone deserves a chance to become who they're meant to be. I don't deserve. Stop, I interrupted. Stop telling me what you don't deserve. Start showing me what you can become. Fresh tears ran down her face. In the ICU, through the window, I could see Trevor sitting next to his father's bed. Robert was awake. They were talking, both of them crying. It wasn't redemption yet, but it was a start. Diane came out, saw Claire and me sitting together, smiled. A real smile. And I thought, maybe this is what grace looks like. Not perfection. Not instant healing. Just broken people choosing to try again. Together. I heard them fighting through the door. It was 2 weeks after Robert's heart attack, and David had invited me over for dinner. But when I arrived at their apartment, I heard Claire's voice loud, raw, breaking. Because I can't believe I didn't. Now. I froze on the doorstep, hand raised to knock. Claire, please, David's voice. Your mother isn't the problem, David, I am. My family is. We treated her like she was nothing, and you let us because you were ashamed. My hand dropped. I should leave, should give them privacy. But I couldn't move. I wasn't ashamed of her. Yes, you were. Claire was sobbing now. You were ashamed of her house, her clothes, her car, of everything. And I made you feel that way. I let my family make you feel that way. That's not. Don't lie to me, not now, not after everything. Silence. Long and terrible. Then David's voice, so quiet I almost missed it. You're right. My heart stopped. I was ashamed, he continued. Not of her, of myself. Because I couldn't give you what your family had. Couldn't compete with their money, their status, their everything. And instead of being proud of my mother, of what she built, who she is, I just let them pity her. Because it was easier than admitting I felt like a failure. I pressed my hand against the door. My eyes burned. And now? Claire asked. Now that you know she's rich? That she could have shut them up years ago? How do you feel now? Angry. At her? At myself. His voice cracked. She didn't owe them anything. Didn't owe them explanations or proof, or she was just living her life, being herself. And I resented her for it, for not making it easier for me. I heard footsteps. Movement. I don't want a divorce because of the money, Claire said, her voice steadier now. I want one because I don't know if you can ever forgive me for making you ashamed of the woman who gave you everything. Claire. She raised you alone, built an empire, and I made you feel like she wasn't enough, like you weren't enough. What kind of person does that? More silence. Then David spoke, and his words broke me. The same kind of person who lets their wife believe they're not enough, who accepts a job offer they hate because they're too weak to say no, who sits at dinner tables and lets people mock their mother because defending her would mean admitting they're not who they pretended to be. He was crying now, too. We're both broken, Claire. Both weak, both desperate for approval from people who don't matter. The question isn't whether we can forgive each other, it's whether we can forgive ourselves. I couldn't take it anymore. I knocked. The apartment went silent. Footsteps. The door opened. David stood there, face wet with tears, eyes red and swollen. He saw me. His face crumbled completely. Mom. I heard, I said quietly. I'm sorry. I should have left, but... No. He pulled me inside. No, you should hear this. You deserve to hear this. Claire was standing in the middle of the living room, mascara running down her face, hands shaking. She looked at me. How much did you hear? Enough. Then you know. You know what we are. What I am. I set down my purse, walked over to her, and I did something I'd never done before. I hugged her. Really hugged her. She went rigid, then collapsed into me, sobbing. I'm so sorry, she whispered against my shoulder. I'm so sorry. I know, baby, I know. I don't know how to fix this, how to be better, how to... You start by forgiving yourself, I said. Both of you. I pulled back, looked at them, these two broken people who loved each other, but didn't know how to love themselves. Sit, I said. Both of you. They sat on the couch like scolded children. I pulled up a chair, faced them. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone, I said. not even David. They waited. When my husband died, I fell apart, completely. For 3 months, I barely functioned, barely fed myself, let alone David. We survived on frozen dinners and cereal. I cried myself to sleep every night, woke up every morning wishing I hadn't. David's eyes widened. Mom, I didn't know. You were 10. You weren't supposed to know, but it happened. I took a breath. And one day, I looked at you, really looked at you, and I saw you were scared, terrified, because you'd lost your father, and now you were losing your mother too. Tears ran down my face. And I made a choice. I decided that grief didn't get to win, that my husband's death wouldn't destroy both of us. So I got up. I finished my software project. I started pitching it. Not because I was strong, but because I was desperate, because the alternative was giving up, and I couldn't do that to you. I looked at David. But here's what I never told you. I was ashamed too. Ashamed that I couldn't just be okay, that I needed help, that I was barely holding it together while other widows seemed to manage just fine. Mom, I'm not done. I wiped my eyes. When the company took off, when the money started coming in, I thought, finally I've proven I'm enough, that I didn't need anyone, that I could do it all myself. I laughed. Bitter. But you know what I learned? Money doesn't fix shame, success doesn't fix shame. The only thing that fixes shame is deciding it's a lie. Claire was staring at me. You were ashamed because you thought your worth was tied to your parents' approval, I said to her. And you, I turned to David, were ashamed because you thought your worth was tied to your bank account. I leaned forward. But your worth isn't tied to anything external. It's inherent. You're valuable because you exist, because you're kind, because you love, because you try. Everything else is just decoration. David buried his face in his hands. I should have told them, he said. Should have defended you. Should have, would have, could have, I interrupted. David, I don't need you to defend me. I never did. What I need is for you to stop punishing yourself for being human. But I failed you. You didn't fail me. You struggled. There's a difference. I touched his shoulder. And now you get to choose. Keep struggling, keep drowning in shame, or get up. Make a different choice. Be different. He looked at me with so much pain in his eyes. How? You start by being honest. With yourself, with Claire, with everyone. I smiled. You tell Robert you're not taking his job. You tell your principal you're staying. You tell your students why you teach because you love it, because it matters, because they matter. What if that's not enough for Claire's family? Then they can deal with it, Claire said suddenly. We both turned to her. She was sitting up straighter, eyes clearer. I'm done, she said. Done living for their approval. Done measuring my life by their standards. Done pretending I'm someone I'm not. She looked at David. I don't want a divorce, she said. I want to start over. Honestly. No more secrets, no more pretending. Just us, figuring out who we are, together. Are you sure? David asked. Because I can't go back to how we were, pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, walking on eggshells, trying to be enough. I don't want to go back either. She took his hand. I want to go forward, to something real, even if it's messy and hard and scary. It will be all of those things, I warned. I know, Claire said, but at least it'll be honest. David pulled her close. They held each other, crying and laughing and breaking and healing all at once. I stood to leave. Give them privacy. Mom, wait, David said. I turned. He stood, walked over to me, and he said the words I'd needed to hear for 3 years. I'm sorry, for being ashamed, for not defending you, for choosing their approval over your dignity, for all of it. His voice broke completely. You gave me everything. You sacrificed everything. You built an empire and stayed humble and taught me what actually matters in this world. And I repaid you by letting them treat you like garbage. He was sobbing now. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I held my son while he cried. Held him the way I had 1,000 times before. I forgive you, I whispered. I forgave you before you even asked. That's what mothers do. I don't deserve. Stop. I pulled back, looked him in the eye. Stop telling me what you don't deserve. You're my son. You're enough. You've always been enough. And I'm proud of you. Not because of what you do or what you have, but because of who you are. He crumpled. And for the next hour, we all sat together. Crying, talking, healing, being honest for the first time in years. Claire told us about her childhood, the pressure to be perfect, the constant competition with other wealthy families, the way love felt conditional, transactional. David told us about the moment he realized he was ashamed. A parent-teacher conference where another teacher mentioned his rich wife, and he'd felt small, less than, like he'd married up and everyone knew it. And I told them about the years of watching them struggle, about wanting to step in but knowing they needed to figure it out themselves. About the pain of being dismissed but choosing silence because I thought it would teach them something. Did it? Claire asked. Teach us something? I don't know yet, I said honestly. Ask me in a year. Ask me in 10 years. Growth doesn't happen overnight. But it is happening? David asked. Right now? I looked at them, really looked. At their red eyes and raw faces and open hearts. Yeah, I said. It's happening. My phone buzzed. A text from Diane. Robert's being released tomorrow. Can we come see you? I showed them the message. What are you going to say? Claire asked. I don't know yet. I stood, gathered my things. But I think maybe we're all ready to try again. For real this time. At the door, David hugged me one more time. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. And Mom? Yeah? Thank you. For not giving up on us. On any of us. I smiled through my tears. I'm your mother. Giving up isn't in my programming. I drove home through streets lit by street lamps and stars. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not because everything was fixed, but because everyone was finally being honest. And honesty, I'd learned, was where healing begins. 6 months later, we had our first real Thanksgiving. Not at the mansion that had been sold to pay off debts. Not at my house too small for everyone. But at David and Claire's apartment. Their modest 2-bedroom that suddenly felt big enough because no one was pretending anymore. I arrived early with my grocery store pie. This time, no one gasped. Claire opened the door wearing jeans and a sweater. No designer labels, hair in a messy bun. She looked tired. Grad school and part-time work did that, but she looked real. You brought pie. She hugged me. Actually hugged me. Thank God. I tried to make one yesterday and it looked like a crime scene. I laughed. Where's David? Setting up tables. We're eating in the living room. Very fancy. She grinned. By fancy I mean we borrowed chairs from the neighbors and we're using paper plates. Sounds perfect. Robert and Diane arrived next. Robert looked different. Thinner. Grayer. But his eyes were clearer. He wore khakis and a button-down, nothing expensive. Working at Chen Capital as a junior consultant meant no more Armani suits. He'd hated it at first. James told me Robert had cried in his office after his first week, said he felt humiliated, diminished. But James had made him stay. And slowly, something had shifted. Robert was learning what it meant to earn respect instead of buying it. Happy Thanksgiving, he said to me. Then, like he'd been practicing, thank you for having us. Thank you for coming. Diane carried a casserole dish. I made green bean casserole, from scratch. Well, mostly. The onions are from a can. But I cooked the rest. She said it with such pride. 6 months ago, Diane hadn't known how to turn on her own oven. Now she was taking cooking classes at the community center. In my neighborhood, the one she'd once called unsafe. Trevor arrived last, taking the bus. He'd sold his Tesla to help pay back the money he'd stolen. Now he drove nothing and took public transit to his job as a data analyst at a startup. Entry level. $40,000 a year. He looked exhausted, humbled. Better. Sorry I'm late, he said. Bus broke down. You're right on time, David said, clasping his shoulder. Come on, food's almost ready. We crowded around the mismatched tables David had set up. Paper plates, plastic forks, glasses from IKEA. We sat. And for a moment, no one spoke. We just looked at each other. At who we'd been 6 months ago. At who we were now. I want to say something, Robert said suddenly. Everyone turned. He cleared his throat, nervous, uncomfortable. 6 months ago, I almost died. And I deserved it. Not the heart attack, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But the wake-up call, the reckoning. He looked at David. I treated you like you were less than, like your life didn't matter because it didn't come with a corner office. David started to speak. Robert held up his hand. Let me finish. Please. He swallowed hard. I was wrong. About everything. You're a better man than I'll ever be. You chose purpose. You chose integrity. You chose to be present for people who needed you. While I was chasing money I didn't have, building an empire made of debt and lies. His voice cracked. Working for James, being an entry-level consultant at 63 years old, it's humiliating. Every day. I answer phones, I run reports, I do grunt work for people half my age. He paused. But you know what? I'm sleeping at night. For the first time in 20 years, I'm sleeping. Because I'm not lying anymore. Not to investors, not to my family, not to myself. Diane took his hand. What I'm trying to say is, Robert looked directly at me. Thank you. You could have destroyed us, should have destroyed us, but you gave us something better, a chance to rebuild, honestly. And we're taking it, Diane added. Robert's been sober from work addiction for 6 months. I've been learning to live without all of it. The country club, the designer clothes, the keeping up with the Joneses. And I'm happier, really happier. Trevor shifted uncomfortably. My turn? If you want, I said gently. He took a breath. I stole from my father, from the family business, not because I needed the money, I had plenty, but because I was bored, empty, trying to fill a hole with things that couldn't fill it. He looked at his empty plate. Now I work 60 hours a week for peanuts. I live in a studio apartment with a roommate. I take the bus. I eat ramen. He laughed, but there was no bitterness in it. And I'm okay. Not happy yet, but okay, which is more than I was before. You're doing great, I said. Really. I'm surviving. There's a difference. Surviving is where it starts, I said. Trust me. Claire squeezed David's hand. My turn, I guess. She looked around the table. I dropped out of college to get married, to play house, to be what my parents wanted, a trophy wife for a successful man. Except David wasn't successful by their definition. So I tried to change him, tried to make him want what they wanted, and I almost destroyed us both. David kissed her temple. Now I'm in grad school, clinical psychology. I work part-time at a crisis center. I'm broke and exhausted and stressed, and she smiled. And I know who I am. For the first time in my life, I know what I want, not what they want, not what society expects, just me. And what do you want? Diane asked softly. To help people, to matter, to build something real with David, even if it's small, even if no one's impressed. Because we're impressed, and that's enough. David pulled her close. My turn, he said. I told Robert I wasn't taking his job, told him I was staying at the high school. That teaching was my calling, not my backup plan. How'd he take it? Trevor asked. He cried, David said, apologized, said he was proud of me. Robert nodded, wiping his eyes. And I told my students about my mom, David continued. About what she built, what she sacrificed. Not to brag, but to show them that success isn't about money. It's about purpose, integrity, being true to yourself even when it costs you. He looked at me. I spent 3 years being ashamed of the most incredible woman I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making that up to her. You already have, I said softly. Not even close. He smiled. But I'm trying. They all looked at me, waiting. I don't have much to add, I said, except that I'm proud of all of you. Not because you're fixed, none of us are fixed, but because you're trying. Because you chose honesty over comfort, truth over appearance. And that's harder than any business deal or financial success. I raised my water glass. To rebuilding, together. To rebuilding, they echoed. We ate. We talked. We laughed, really laughed. Robert told a story about accidentally hanging up on a major client his first week at Chen Capital. Diane talked about burning her first homemade lasagna so badly the fire alarm went off. Trevor admitted he'd gotten lost on the bus system and ended up in the wrong county. Claire shared about her first client at the crisis center, how terrified she'd been, how inadequate she'd felt, how the woman had thanked her anyway. David talked about his students, the ones getting into college, the ones finding their paths, the ones who reminded him why he taught. And me? I just listened. Watched these people who'd been strangers 6 months ago become family. Real family. After dinner, David pulled out a box. "What's this?" Claire asked. "I found it in Mom's attic, asked if I could borrow it." He opened it. Photos, dozens of them. My life in pictures. My wedding. My husband. Baby David. The garage where I'd built my company. The day I closed the deal. David's graduation. His wedding. "I want to make a family album," David said. "Not just our family, but all of us. The real version. The honest version." He spread the photos on the table. Starting with the people who taught us what actually matters. He picked up a photo of my husband. Young, smiling, full of life. Grandpa died before I really knew him. But Mom says he believed success was measured in relationships, not bank accounts. In the people you help, not the stuff you accumulate. David looked at Robert. "I think he would have liked you. The new you. The one who's learning what matters." Robert broke down completely. Diane held him while he cried. We spent the next hour going through photos, adding new ones, building something together. A record of who we'd been, who we were becoming. At the end of the night, as everyone was leaving, Diane pulled me aside. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Of course." "I hated you. For years. You know that, right?" I nodded. "You represented everything I was afraid of. That money didn't matter. That appearance wasn't everything. That I'd built my whole life on sand." She wiped her eyes. "And when you exposed us, when you showed us who we really were, I wanted to die. Literally. I thought about it." My heart clenched. "But then you offered to help, to rebuild, to teach us. And I realized you weren't my enemy. You were my mirror, showing me what I could be if I had the courage to be honest." She hugged me. Really hugged me. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on us. On me." "Thank you for being willing to change," I said. "That's harder than anything else." They all left. David and Claire cleaned up. I helped. "Mom," David said as I was leaving, "one more thing." "Yeah?" He handed me an envelope. "What's this?" "Open it when you get home." I drove back to my little house with the chain-link fence and the garden. The house no one pitied anymore. Inside, I opened the envelope. It was a letter. In David's handwriting. "Dear Mom, I've tried to write this 100 times. I never know where to start. Thank you seems too small. I'm sorry seems too late. I love you seems too obvious. But here's what I want you to know. You saved me. Not just when Dad died. Not just when you built the company. But every day. With every choice you made to be honest. To be real. To show me that worth isn't about money or status or what other people think. You let them mock you for 3 years. Not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to wait, patient enough to let us figure it out. Wise enough to know that lessons learned are better than lessons taught. I'm still learning. Still figuring out who I am without the shame and the fear and the desperate need for approval. But I know this. I want to be like you. Not rich, not successful, just honest, just real, just enough. Thank you for showing me what that looks like. I love you, Mom. Always. David. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully. put it in my desk drawer with all the other things I treasured. And I thought, this is what wealth looks like. Not the money in my accounts, but the family around my table, the people choosing honesty over comfort, the broken pieces rebuilding themselves into something stronger. Real wealth is peace, security, the freedom to live according to your values. And I had all of it. Finally, the call came on a Tuesday morning. I was in my garden, pruning roses, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this? A breath, shaky. Is this David's mother? The voice was familiar but wrong. Too thin, too scared. Diane? It's Trevor. Another breath. He's in the hospital. He tried to hurt himself. The pruning shears fell from my hand. What? Last night, his roommate found him. Pills. They pumped his stomach. He's stable, but... Her voice broke. Can you come, please? He's asking for you. For me? He won't talk to us. To any of us. Just keep saying your name. I was in my car in 5 minutes. The hospital was an hour away, but I made it in 40. Diane was in the waiting room. No makeup, hair unwashed. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. He's in room 412, she said. They're keeping him for psychiatric evaluation, 72 hours minimum. What happened? I don't know. He seemed fine. Better even. Working hard, paying back the money, going to therapy. She started crying. I thought we were past this. I thought we were healing. Healing isn't linear, I said gently. It's messy. And sometimes you fall backward before you can move forward. Will you talk to him? Of course. Room 412 was at the end of a long hallway. Fluorescent lights, antiseptic smell, the sound of machines beeping. I knocked softly. Go away, Trevor's voice. Hoarse. Dead. It's me, I said. Can I come in? Silence. Then, why? Because you asked for me. More silence. Doors open. I went in. Trevor was in the bed, IVs in his arm, looking at the ceiling. He didn't look at me. They told you what I did, he said. Not a question. They told me you're hurting. He laughed. Bitter, broken, hurting, that's one word for it. I pulled up a chair. Saturday. Want to tell me what happened? What's the point? The point is, you're alive, and you asked for me, so here I am. He finally looked at me. His eyes were hollow, empty. I can't do it anymore. Do what? Any of it. The job, the bus, the studio apartment, the ramen, the constant, grinding, soul-crushing smallness of it all. His voice cracked. I wake up every day and I hate my life. And everyone keeps saying it gets better, that I'm paying my dues, that this is what growth looks like. But it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like dying slowly. I said nothing. Just listened. I was supposed to be someone, he continued. VP by 30. My own company by 40. That's what Dad always said. That's what was supposed to happen. And instead, I'm 29, living with a roommate who steals my food, working a job a college grad could do, barely making rent. And that feels like failure. It is failure. He turned away. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Don't tell me I'm learning or growing or whatever bullshit everyone keeps saying. I failed. Spectacularly. And I can't come back from it. Why not? Because I'm not like you. He looked at me, angry now. You built something from nothing. You were strong enough, smart enough, determined enough. I'm nothing. A spoiled rich kid who stole from his own father and can't even handle an entry-level job without wanting to die. His voice broke on that last word. I let the silence sit. Then I said something I'd never told anyone. I tried to kill myself once. Trevor's head snapped toward me. What? After my husband died. 3 months in, I couldn't see a way forward, couldn't imagine surviving, so I took pills. A whole bottle. But you're here. David found me. He was 10. Came home from school early because he forgot his math homework. Found me on the bathroom floor. called 911. I took a breath. They pumped my stomach, just like they did for you. And when I woke up, I saw his face, terrified, traumatized, broken, and I realized I'd almost destroyed him. Almost made him live the rest of his life knowing his mother chose death over him. Trevor was staring at me. He doesn't know, I continued. I told him I'd gotten food poisoning, that I'd accidentally taken too much medicine. He believed me. Or maybe he didn't and just chose not to ask. Either way, we never talked about it. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know you're not broken. You're human. And being human means sometimes you can't see the way forward. Sometimes the pain is so big it blocks out everything else. I reached over, took his hand. But Trevor, listen to me. The pain lies. It tells you there's no hope, no future, no point, but it's lying. The pain is a liar. How do you know? Because I'm here. 22 years later, and my life isn't perfect. But it's mine. It's real. It's honest. And I'm glad I'm alive to live it. He started crying. Not quietly, not prettily. Deep, gasping sobs that shook his whole body. I held his hand and let him break. I don't know how to keep going, he whispered. You don't have to know. You just have to do it. 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 breath at a time. What if I can't? Then you ask for help. You call me. You call David. You call your therapist. You call the crisis line. You don't have to do this alone. But I'm so tired. I know. But tired isn't the same as finished. You're tired, not finished. He cried for a long time. I sat with him. Eventually, Diane came to the door, hesitant, scared. Can I? She asked. Trevor nodded. She came in, stood on the other side of his bed. I'm sorry, she said, for everything, for the pressure, for the expectations, for making you think your worth was tied to your success. Mom. No, let me finish. She was crying now too. I raised you to believe money and status were everything, that being less than perfect was failure, and I'm so sorry, because look what it did to you. Look what it almost... She couldn't finish. Trevor reached for her hand. It's not just you, Mom. It's me too. I made the choices. I stole the money. I built my identity on being someone I wasn't. That's on me. But we taught you. And now I'm unlearning it. It's harder than I thought. Robert appeared in the doorway. His face was devastated. Son, he said. His voice broke on the word. I'm so sorry, for all of it. The pressure, the expectations, making you think you had to be a certain thing to be worthy of love. He came into the room. When you were born, I promised myself I'd give you everything I didn't have. Money, status, success. But I forgot to give you the most important thing. What? Trevor whispered. Permission to be yourself, permission to fail, permission to be human. Robert knelt beside the bed. I love you, not because of what you achieve or how much you make or what title you have, but because you're my son. And that's enough. You're enough. Trevor broke down again. And this time, his whole family held him while he cried. I stepped back, gave them space. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall and tried to breathe through my own tears. James appeared, must have heard from Diane. He gonna be okay? He asked quietly. I think so. Eventually. This is hard stuff. Rebuilding, redefining yourself, harder than I thought it would be. It always is. James looked at me. You saved them, you know. This whole family, they'd have imploded without your intervention. I didn't save them. I just held up a mirror. They did the hard work themselves. Still, not many people would have done what you did, given them a chance instead of destroying them. I thought about that. About revenge versus redemption. About the satisfaction of punishment versus the difficulty of grace. I'm not interested in being right, I said finally. I'm interested in being kind. There's a difference. 3 days later, Trevor was released. With medications, a treatment plan, weekly therapy, a crisis plan, and a promise. I'll keep going, he told me on his last day in the hospital. I'll keep trying. Not because I think it'll get easy, but because you showed me surviving is worth something, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He hugged me. Thank you for telling me your story, for being honest, for not pretending you had it all figured out. None of us have it figured out, Trevor. We're all just doing our best. Your best is pretty good. I smiled. So is yours. You're still here. That's more than pretty good. That's everything. A week later, I got a letter. Handwritten, in careful script. Dear Mom, it started. He called me Mom now. I know you told me your story to help, to show me I wasn't alone. But I want you to know it did something else too. It showed me that broken people can become whole, that failures can become foundations, that the worst moment of your life doesn't have to define all the moments after. I'm not okay yet. Maybe I won't be for a long time. But I'm here. I'm trying. I'm taking the pills and going to therapy and showing up for work even when I don't want to. Because you showed me surviving is an act of courage. And maybe, if I keep surviving, one day I'll look back and realize I've been living all along. Thank you for not giving up on me. For seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself. I hope I can be that for someone else someday. Love, Trevor. I folded the letter carefully, put it in my drawer next to David's. And I thought, this is what grace looks like. Not fixing people, not saving them, just walking beside them through the dark and reminding them, you're not alone. The pain is lying, and you're worth the fight. 1 year later, I stood in my garden on Thanksgiving morning, cutting flowers for the table. The roses were blooming, late for the season, but beautiful. My phone buzzed. A text from David. We're here. Need help carrying anything? I smiled. Just yourselves. This year, Thanksgiving was at my house. By choice. By request. Because somewhere along the way, my quaint little house had become home for all of us. I heard car doors, voices, laughter. David and Claire came through the gate first. Claire was showing now 5 months pregnant. They'd waited to tell everyone until they were sure, until they felt ready. Mom! Claire hugged me, careful of her belly. The garden looks beautiful. Thank you, sweetheart. How are you feeling? Nauseous, exhausted, terrified. She grinned. Perfect. David kissed my cheek. We brought rolls, store-bought, seemed fitting. I laughed. Perfect. Robert and Diane arrived next. Robert driving a sensible used Honda. Diane carrying a casserole dish with real pride. Green bean casserole, she announced. And I didn't burn it this time. Progress, I said. Robert pulled me aside. Can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. We walked to the edge of the garden, away from the others. I got a promotion, he said. Senior consultant. James said I earned it, that my work has been exceptional. Robert, that's wonderful. It comes with a raise. Not huge, but significant. And I wanted to ask. He looked uncomfortable. Can I start paying you back? For everything you did, the lawyers, the help with the debts, all of it. I shook my head. That wasn't a loan. It was a gift. I know, but Bacchus. Robert, I don't need the money. What I need is for you to keep growing. Keep being honest. Keep showing up for your family. His eyes filled. I don't deserve. Stop. I smiled. None of us deserve grace. That's why it's called grace. He hugged me. Awkward but real. Thank you, he whispered, for everything. Trevor was the last to arrive, taking the bus still, but by choice now. He said it gave him time to think, to read, to be present instead of distracted. He looked different, healthier. His eyes weren't hollow anymore. Hey, Mom. He hugged me tight. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, baby. How are you? Good. Actually good. He pulled back, excited. I got promoted too. Junior analyst to analyst. It's not much, but it's everything, I interrupted. I'm so proud of you. And I've been saving. Finally paid back the last of what I stole. It's done. All of it. His voice cracked with relief. Trevor, that's incredible. I couldn't have done it without you. Without everyone. He looked around at his family. A year ago, I wanted to die. And now I want to live. Really live. That's because of you. That's because of you. You did the work. I just walked beside you. James and Patricia arrived together. They'd been dating for 6 months. Couldn't miss this, James said. The famous Thanksgiving at the house that started it all. The house you all mocked, I reminded him. We were idiots, Patricia said cheerfully. But we learned. We gathered in my small dining room, the table extended with borrowed leaves, chairs mismatched, china from 3 different sets. Nothing matched. Everything was perfect. I looked around at the faces. Robert, teaching David how to carve the turkey properly. Claire, laughing with Diane about pregnancy cravings. Trevor, telling James and Patricia about his work. A year ago, these people had been strangers, enemies even. Now, they were family. Before we ate, David stood. I want to say something. Everyone quieted. A year ago, I was ashamed. Of myself, my job, my mother. I let people convince me that worth was measured in money, that teaching was a waste, that I needed to be someone different to be someone valuable. He looked at Claire. She took his hand. And my wife was lost, chasing approval from people who measured love in dollars, trying to be someone she wasn't. Claire nodded, crying softly. Robert was drowning in debt and denial. Diane was trapped in appearances. Trevor was stealing and hiding and dying inside. David turned to me. And my mom, the strongest, wisest, kindest person I know, let us all underestimate her. For 3 years, not because she was weak, but because she was patient. His voice cracked. She could have destroyed us, could have humiliated us, could have walked away and let us implode. But she didn't. She held up a mirror. She offered grace. She taught us. He stopped, breathed. She taught us that real wealth isn't what you have. It's who you are and who you choose to become. He raised his glass. To Mom, for showing us what actually matters. To Mom, they all echoed. I couldn't speak, could only cry. Robert stood next. I want to add something. He looked at me. A year ago, I thought I was a success. Big house, luxury cars, status. But I was broke in every way that mattered. Financially, emotionally, spiritually. He paused. You didn't just save my business. You saved my life, my marriage, my relationship with my kids. You showed me that being humbled isn't the same as being destroyed. That starting over isn't failure, it's courage. His voice broke. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you saw in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. Diane stood next. I was so lost. I didn't know who I was without the designer labels and the country club. I thought I was nothing. She smiled through tears. But you taught me I was never nothing. I just hadn't found myself yet. And now I'm taking classes, making friends, cooking, volunteering, living, really living. And I'm so proud of her, Robert added, squeezing her hand. Trevor stood last. I tried to die a year ago. That's not a secret anymore. We all know. The table went quiet. And the reason I'm here is because of everyone at this table, but especially because of you, Mom. He looked at me. You told me your story, the darkest part of it, not to make me feel better, but to show me survivors become helpers, broken people become healers, and the worst moment doesn't define all the moments after. He wiped his eyes. I'm not fixed. I still have bad days, but I'm here. I'm trying. I'm living. And that's because you showed me it was worth it. I stood, shakily. I don't have a big speech, I said. Just, thank you, all of you, for being willing to change, to grow, to be honest even when it hurt. I looked around the table. A year ago, you pitied me. My cardigan, my pie, my little house. You thought I was poor, less than, someone to be helped. I smiled. But I was never poor. Not really. Because I had peace. I had purpose. I had the freedom to be myself. And that's the richest thing there is. I raised my glass. This year you have it too. Not because your bank accounts are bigger, though some are, but because you know who you are, what you believe, what matters. My voice cracked. And that makes us all wealthy beyond measure. To being rich in the ways that count, James added. To being rich in the ways that count, everyone echoed. We ate. We talked. We laughed until we cried and cried until we laughed. Robert told stories about his most embarrassing moments at Chen Capital. Diane shared about the time she'd tried to take the bus and ended up 3 counties away. Trevor talked about his therapist telling him to feel his feelings and how much he'd hated it at first. Claire shared about her work at the crisis center, the lives she was touching, the difference she was making. I wanted to be important, she said. Turns out, I just needed to be useful. David talked about his students, the ones getting scholarships, the ones finding their way, the ones who reminded him why he'd chosen this life. I'm not rich, he said, but I'm wealthy, in the ways that actually matter. As the sun set and the candles flickered, I looked around my table, at the mismatched chairs and the borrowed dishes and the faces I loved. And I thought, this is what I fought for. Not revenge, not vindication, but this moment, this family, this truth. After dinner, we sat in the living room, too full to move, too happy to leave. Claire brought out a photo album. I made this, for all of us. She opened it. The first page, a photo from 2 years ago. The mansion, the designer clothes, the fake smiles. Before, she said. She turned the page. A photo from this Thanksgiving. My garden, our mismatched table, real smiles. After, she'd filled the album with moments from the past year. Robert's first day at Chen Capital, Diane's first cooking class, Trevor's first paycheck, Claire's first day of grad school, David with his students, and pictures of all of us, together, healing, growing, becoming. The last page was blank except for a quote she'd written. Real wealth is peace, security, the freedom to live according to your values, and we finally have all of that. Under it, she'd left space. For whatever comes next, she said, because this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. As they all left that night, tired, full, happy, David lingered. You okay, Mom? I'm perfect. Really? I looked around my little house, the one they'd once pitied. Really? All of this is what I wanted, not the humiliation or the pain, but the growth, the honesty, the family that chose truth over appearance. We wouldn't have chosen it without you. Maybe, but you did the hard work. I just held up the mirror. He hugged me. I love you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on us. Never, I whispered. Not ever. After they left, I sat in my garden under the stars. Thought about the journey. The 3 years of insults. The moment I'd decided enough was enough. The phone calls, the confrontations, the hospital, the healing, all of it. They say you can't put a price on family. Turns out, you can. I just paid in humility, patience, grace, and the willingness to let people underestimate me until it mattered. Best investment I ever made. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Trevor. Mom, I've been saving this. Didn't know when to say it, but here goes. Thank you for teaching me that surviving is an act of courage, and that broken people can become whole. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. Because of you. Love you. Happy Thanksgiving. I smiled through tears. Typed back. You were never broken, baby. Just becoming. And I'm so proud of who you're becoming. Love you too. I looked up at the stars. Thought about my husband. How he'd believed success was measured in relationships, not money. He'd have been proud. Of David. Of this family. Of what we'd built. Not empire. But something better. Something real. The wind rustled through my garden. The roses swayed. The house, my quaint little house, glowed warm behind me. And I thought, I'm 63 years old. I have 8 figures in the bank. I live in a modest house with a chain-link fence. I wear old cardigans and bring grocery store pie. And I'm the richest woman I know. Not because of what's in my account, but because of what's in my heart. A family that chose honesty. A son who found himself. A daughter-in-law who's becoming who she was meant to be. And people who learned that wealth isn't about what you wear or drive or own. It's about who you are when no one's watching. What you build when no one's impressed. How you love when there's nothing to gain. And by that measure, we're all billionaires.